Hi, everyone. This is our bi-monthly programs for Rotary E-Club of One World. Our guest is William Mosby, and we are allowed to call him Will. He is a software and system architect with over 20 years of experience. Will has held senior engineer positions with premier companies as Verizon, HP, Toyota, and Bank of America. In addition to founding 501c3 StreetCents Corporation, Will is the owner of DataScrapers LLC and TechnoFro. He is a public speaker, an academic advisor, and an avid community volunteer. In his spare time, which I can't believe you have any left, he is a licensed pilot, a martial arts enthusiast, and enjoys traveling abroad and spending time with his family. Will, I'm so glad that you have agreed to come on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And the first thing I'm going to ask you, because it's on everyone's mind, during this coronavirus pandemic, what is going on in the state of Texas?
You know, Texas, for the most part, life is pretty much the same. You know, we, like a lot of the different states around the country, we haven't had an official stay-at-home order. The state government is kind of allowing the different cities to kind of make their declarations for stay-at-home or not. Of course, there have been executive orders at the state level as far as 10 people or less, meeting size, social distancing, things of that nature. But I mean, I went out with my son to a park, just the two of us. We played basketball a few days ago. There were several people there, small groups. They're asking us not, of course, to use the playground area, any communicable touchy-feely things. But other than that, it's been relatively quiet. Streets are a lot more empty, as far as things of that nature. But you look at the pictures of Italy and China, and you see the empty streets and no one that parks and things like that. It's not to that point, but definitely it's on our radar. But as far as day-to-day life, there hasn't been much change. Okay. Great. Well, thank you much. So most of my efforts focus around my three entities. There is the StreetCents Corporation, that's the nonprofit, and effectively that's a think tank, and it just shows lower income communities and marginalized areas how to engage things strategically. So it's a think tank of sorts. We do a lot of workshops as far as going into underdeveloped areas and explain to them, students that are going their first time in college or their first time in corporate America, saying what to expect, norms that you might not be accustomed to being in your particular area, but things to expect when you go to corporate America. We teach how to engage conflict at a mental level, strategic, as far as not just going in fully heart engaged. We build a lot of our lessons around chess. We have a new program where we do chess and chat, where we speak to middle schools and high schools, and we explain to them, first of all, how to play chess, and we show them how the life lessons that you learn on the chessboard can be used in your day-to-day interactions. So that's StreetCents. That's the 501c3. It's also the 50C the StreetCents is also used as a conduit to receive donated computer systems for our for-profits our system collection effort. So we have oldcomputernewpurpose.com is our donation website. And what we do is we collect computer systems for both individual donors and corporate entities. We recondition those computer systems, and then we provide them to nonprofit and educational institutions that don't have computer lab or computer resources. I was doing a speaking engagement 3-4 years ago in the lower income area. And after the speaking engagement, I was speaking to a librarian, and we were talking about, just different things. And she mentioned, oh, well, we don't have a computer lab. And I'm like, well, there's something wrong with your computer lab. And she's like, no, we don't have a computer lab. And this is 2017 at the time, which was, I was floored that they didn't have those resources. So that was pretty much the start of DataScrapers. You know, I had another entity at the time that I was using for consulting purposes, and I splintered that business to the DataScrapers portion as well as the original entity. So DataScrapers could focus solely on computer projects and repurposing and providing computer equipment for underserved areas. So TechnoFro is a DBA of DataScrapers. Now, so TechnoFro focuses on giving highly specialized and marketable skills in IT to underserved areas. I work with a lot of school districts in both affluent and both indigent areas. And, you know, the difference in resources is just amazing as far as what one school system has as opposed to not. And it's not necessarily always divided by the ISD level. Sometimes there's a school that's in an ISD in this part of town as opposed to one in this part of town, and the resources they have available to them as far as IT are just amazing, you know, the gap. So the whole focus on TechnoPro is, our mission statement is to bridge the socioeconomic gap in computer literacy. Our programs are focused on students from kindergarten to 12th grade, and our whole approach is to create an organic, we call our organic technology initiative. We expose youth to a variety of different IT related fields at a young age and let them naturally gravitate to things that for which they might have a proclivity or some kind of desire, you know. So we're in the middle of a project or program right now for a private school in Dallas. And this is a private school, so it's a little unique because we have a class and it ranges from first grade all the way to fifth grade. So we started with just, you know, we're 70% on hand, 30% theory. But so we start with real basic terms. First week, just explain to them what a computer work and how computer work and how it, the similarities between the computer body and the human body. The second week, we actually got hands-on. So we took some of the donated systems and we had the first through fifth graders just tearing the computers apart and touching this power supply, and they were just so. I was floored. I mean, I think that we all are. I know we all are. The the principal of the school and the computer teacher are just floored by how much they're retaining their attention. And you know, the first day is kind of choppy, but by the second and third day, you know, you have first and second graders, hey, can you give me that heat sink? This memory doesn't fit. I think it's the wrong kind of module. You know, where's the processor? You know, that's the wrong hard drive. It goes here. And we really focused on them helping themselves. You know, we're there, but you know, we believe in the teach a person to fish type of approach. So, you know, it's very engaging, it's very positive. And they've just flourished. The second and third week, we went into actual Linux operating systems. So we installed the Linux operating system, and they're installing apps. And we've been kind of pushed back because of like the COVID-19 pandemic. But when we return, we're going to start our programming course or our programming lessons. So again, everybody a part of the program, they're just amazed about how the students are just naturally gravitating to it. I mean, from the first to the fifth graders. And at first I was concerned because of the mixed class and the attention level, but the first and second graders are keeping up with the fifth graders. I mean, it's very engaging. It's very, it's a lot of cooperation. It's a lot of self-esteem. I mean, when they first put the computer, take it apart, put it back together, turn it on, it works, and they're like, oh my gosh, you know? So they're really excited. So, that is pretty much my entities in a nutshell, and why I do what I do.
Why did you choose? I mean, I love technology, so, but why did you choose technology to bring that to children?
Well, I guess technology is all I know. I work with so many peers and throughout my career that have had like, you know, 2 or 3 different careers. Well, I, you know, went to school as an accountant, then I became a CPA, and now I'm a real estate in broker. And it's like, wow, you know, so But for me, ever since third grade, I've always been working in computers in one form or fashion. So it's all that I do know, and all that I enjoy. One thing also that I akin it to is with students or young youth that learn different languages. If you learn a different language at a young age, it's just seamless. The way that your enunciation and whatnot, your brain is just so, in a good way, unstructured. It's just very accommodating. It'll put things anywhere. And the same with computer systems. When you introduce students to any concept, if you can do it in a very engaging, supportive way, their brains just absorb. And so we're trying to, again, back to the organic technology initiative, we're trying to get it. So a lot of the for-profit computer clubs you see in more fluent areas, they charge a great deal of money, and their focus is coding. And again, I have no problem with coding. I've been a senior developer for several different positions, but there's a lot more to IT than coding. Programming is great. It's very rewarding, but not everybody is a coder, and that's okay. And just because you aren't a coder doesn't mean that you can't have a very fulfilling and just successful career in computers.
You said that you're teaching these children also programming. May I know what kind of, what is it called that you teach them? What kind of programming?
We focus on the object-oriented type languages. So our main thing for our youth, we do with Java. We do into some C++ and Java. Now, we're in a world where everybody's pushing Python, and there's nothing wrong with Python, but it's kind of, if you start on a certain level, if you start with, the quote unquote hard languages like C++ or Java, all the subsequent languages, they're not quote unquote hard. We don't believe in whole easy or hard. We believe in new and old. If something is new, it'll be a little more challenging at first. If you do it enough times, then it's like, it's just something different. And there's also a lot of value from a learning perspective if you work with a lot of different languages. Kind of like if you speak several Germanic languages, it's kind of like, okay, I can kind of see the connection. We say, oh, okay, so it kind of, by learning different languages, if it's done properly, it reinforces their overall understanding on computer science. We start with a real level. We talk about the bit. The bit is just a 1 or a 0, and we show how that 1 and 0 becomes the coolest video game in the world. So it's all about how you engage the youth, and it has, like I said, we focus on the actual on hands type things. And it's very supportive. One thing that we've noticed when we go into a lot of the lower income areas, just by the value of it being a male presence, where a lot of places that's not there, there's a lot of intrinsic value to just that, as far as having interaction with, especially for the young men, the boys, as far as like, oh, wow, this is, most of my environment is a lot of very talented, very caring, nurturing ladies. But to see another male, like, oh, okay, that isn't on TV doing something negative, kind of, oh, yeah. It's just so many benefits. And another thing about TechnoFro is, TechnoFro is a little different approach, because we do the hard skills, the hard technical skills. We also do the soft skills. So we take a lot of lessons from the StreetCents Corporation, and we intertwine those into the actual TechnoFro program. The one example I use, if you have a student and you open up a coding company or coding club in a lower income area, the situation at home in a lot of lower income areas aren't conducive to learning. I have a gentleman with whom I partner, and he has his own nonprofit, and he would go to school. Back when he was a kid, he would go to school, and the teachers would, hey, wake up, you're not focusing, and just talk about all the things he's not doing. Unbeknownst to the teacher, there was a lot of drug activity going on in his house. So, he couldn't keep his eyes open during class because at nighttime, at nighttime is when his house was really busy. So having grown up in the inner city, I understand that, um, first of all, the power of positive reinforcement, the power of having faith in somebody, and just a little tweaking as far as how people approach situations. So I work with a lot of at-risk youth in the Frisco and McKinney ISDs, my local school districts, and they're not bad kids. I mean, I think a lot of people, when they see troubled kids, it's been my experience that troubled kids, they usually have troubled parents. So they try to put too much focus, I think, on a kid. We're trying to, we focus so much on this symptom, but we're not really getting to the cause. So when you come in there and you actually show genuine concern for a child or youth, they really positively respond to that. And that has positive impact on their lessons and their interactions and their overall outlook on things. So I think that's one thing that TechnoFro excels at, as opposed to a lot of these for-profit coding clubs.
You said something about the life lessons and chess. Could you give us an example?
Effectively, a chess game is a bunch of re-strategizing, prioritization, and overall just projection, as far as, if I make a move here, this move's going to come back and haunt me potentially in 6 moves. So when I mentor students at the ISD level, usually second or third time that we meet after we've had our initial, introduction, and we, have a rapport with one another, I bring in a chessboard. And, and so as we're playing the game, I explain, okay, see, how you start out real aggressive, right? You didn't think, you were just, I gotta go, and now you're in a position where your king is exposed. And so it's like, that early impetuousness, I guess, kind of put you in a real bad position later on in life. So I said, okay, so say each of these moves that you make is a month in your life, and you can see how you, depending on how much time you spend on making these moves, or thought you give before making the move, really dictate where you will be in the future. One big thing I'm really big on is, if you lose, staying calm under pressure. Sometimes, we all have done it before. You make a move and you lose your queen, or you do something very powerful in the first few moves of the game, and you're like, oh man, this game is over. It's like, no. I said, now each move is exponentially more important now, but it's not over. So you may have made a mistake in life, and you might, have got the attention of authorities or whatnot, and, but that doesn't mean it's game over. It just means that every move from this point on is exponentially more valuable. So potentially more dangerous. But if you remain calm, you can always make the situation better. And that really resonates with the youth, as far as, like, especially if they've stumbled. Oh, I've done this and I won't be able to go to college, and I won't, like, no, you will be. But just keep in mind, you're just going to have to you're going to have to take a little bit more time before you take these steps.
I love that. I love what you said. And not just for youth, for all of us.
This is the interesting thing. One of the workshops in Streets is the cognitive combat. We're showing how to engage people on the mental level. And when I'm speaking to mostly like junior college level students, a lot of the instructors will come in and sit down. And I think the first time we had a class, I think in the course of the workshop, we have 5 or 6 instructors, adults, just come and sit down and just like, oh, wow. Oh, as far as just showing how to, if you go into a situation at work where it's my manager just trying to get me in trouble, and he doesn't like me, he wants to fire me. Now, if you go in with that knowledge, knowing that this person is trying to get you in a precarious position, then that kind of dictates how you move. So once you know somebody's trying to do something, that gives you a benefit, and that is universal as far as you're having interpersonal conflicts with anybody. So have a lot of positive things, a lot of positive feedbacks about that from adults. Not only the students love it, but the adults really, really like, oh man, I wish I had this. I mean, and these are like senior level, management executives, where I guess the thing about most areas, they teach most corporate training, they teach conflict avoidance, or de-escalation. But the thing about it is that eventually you'll be in a position where you will be in conflict, and you'll need to know how to tactically extricate yourself from that.
And I would like to end with the last question, which is Rotary. Why did you become a Rotarian, and what makes you want to serve and help others?
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned before that I go on these missions with the Resource Centers International uh, initiative over out of one of the Ohio Rotary groups. And initially, the way I got involved is I was on a Facebook group, and I met a gentleman that was a Rotary, and he was doing a mission in Belize where he had computers, and he was doing effectively the same thing DataScrapers does as far as repurposed computers, but he buys computers from schools and whatnot, and then repurposes them. And then, so at the time that we connected, he was in a situation where he's like, hey, it's great meeting you, da 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 da. We had so much in common, and we really hit it off. He's like, hey, by the way, we have a mission coming up in a few months, and our technical guy just kind of bailed. Do you have any availability? I'm like, I would love to. I would love to. I've been to Belize before. I love the people. I love the area. So I'm like, I love you. So the first time when it was a grueling mission, we had a lot of technical issues. We probably had 14, 16-hour days, but I mean, it was by far one of the most fulfilling things I have ever done in my life. So I was really I was hooked.
Sorry to interrupt you. Was that with the Rotarian?
Yes.
Okay.
Mel Honig out of his Resource Centers International. I don't have all the information on his Rotary group.
Okay.
But yeah, he's been doing it for at least almost 20 years, where they put together these crates, and they load them up with like school books, old VCRs, old computers, desks, things like that. And we just ship it down there, and then we go down for 2 weeks, and we go out to the individual schools and we roll them out. I was there as a technical representative for the computer setup. So I had my second, I did my second Rotary mission this last December. And one thing that struck me at this last December is like, so we go into these classrooms, because in Belize they don't have any kind of the Ministry of Education doesn't provide any IT services. They don't provide IT equipment, nor do they provide computer maintenance or repair or infrastructure, anything like that. So it's pretty much on every school's own to get it fixed. So we went into this year to in Corzo to distribute these computer systems, and we would come across anywhere between 15 or 25 computers over in a corner. And so I would inquire the instructor, what's going on with these computers? And he's like, oh, well, they've broken, and well, we don't really have anybody to fix them. And so I was like, oh, wow, and I said that, so I was having a conversation with the instructors and the Corzo Rotary, and I'm like, you know what, I have a training program where in the States where we do technical skills for, underserved communities. Why don't we do a mission where I come down and we just train and repair the existing computers, as opposed to just keep giving them old computers? Why don't we teach them how to repair their existing computers? So the plan that I came up with was to reach out to each school, reach out to local Rotary groups, and coordinate a time where I could come down and get 5 students of the upper class students, so usually around 12 or 13-year-olds, and 1 instructor. And I'll go to each of those schools, and we'll teach them computer repair so they can maintain their own computer systems. That way it gives them a skill. It's very encouraging to them. It gives them options, as far as where they want to go in the future. And that's something I'm very passionate about. I had hoped, we had tried to schedule it for this last March, but logistically it was just too much, to do for as one person. So I'm trying to get into starting and go. I'm going to try a second time for sometime this summer or early fall to do it, because everybody that loves the idea, I spoke to a lot of instructors there. I spoke to ministry, and then I also spoke to some of the college professors, and they all love the idea. So I just think that it's so fulfilling to, you know, give back and to give communities the tools to be successful in a career that isn't relatively pushed to, you know, too much in that particular area. You know, Belize is really big on agricultural and tourism, and that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong. Those are very, you know, noble professions. But you know, there are also a lot of very talented developers and computer repair, you know, people that just never have had that opportunity. So that is really rewarding.
We have in our club, we have Nabil. Do you know him?
Yes, Nabil
Okay.
is the gentleman
Because
whom I
he's
was.
believe in Belize, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, so I see total synergy with what you guys are trying to accomplish in Belize.
Oh yeah, Believe. I mean, Nabil is a great resource. I mean, actually, he's my sponsor
Ah,
for becoming. So you know, he
look.
and we have conversations, and he was, and I included him on all the correspondences going back and forth between the local Rotary group and Corazol. And I think ultimately the project was a failure because I was remote, and I think the other Rotary groups, I was trying to get a hold of them as far as, I guess I assume I know they're busy and they're doing a lot of great things. So I just think that there was a conflict in schedule, so we couldn't have the meetings to find out, okay, how can we fund the replacement of the equipment, and you know, we have there's funding somewhere. And the great thing about older equipment is it's really relatively cheap to fix. You know, we just need to get a count of, okay, we need 20 motherboards, we need 15 power supplies, things of that nature. So when we try our second attempt, I'm going to, again, you know, give them more notice and try to get more cooperation between the other rotaries in the area. So
Super.
that is definitely my big passion project. I think it's there's financial benefit also, you know, because right now when we ship a container to Belize for the RCI project, I think it's on average $10,000, $11,000, you know, just to the shipping alone. But I mean, if we can just go and repair existing computer systems, that would be a big, you know, big savings. And not to mention all the skills and encouragement, empowerment that it will give the actual communities. And you know, so when I do go down, I am going to invite, you know, there will be focused on the students in the schools, but I'm also going to invite anybody in the villages and the areas that want to join. So, you know, they can learn, you know, there's just so many opportunities in IT that a
Absolutely.
lot of people listen. Well, we need money. We need the newest, fastest equipment. We don't. We have computers on average are 10 years old. You know, we put Linux on them, and then we give them really hardcore IT skills, computer science skills. So you know, from the coding to changing the kernel to installing everything, and it's just phenomenal the success that we've had.
Fantastic. I could talk to you about IT for a long time, but I think for the program we're kind of in a in a time frame. So I love it. Do you want to end with something? Is there anything you want to say to all our members, or should anything?
Again, I appreciate being in the Rotary. I appreciate all that Rotary does for the different communities and groups. It's a phenomenal organization, and I wish I had known about it earlier. You know, but now that I'm part of it, I really appreciate everything that it does, and I ask for anybody that has any contacts or anybody that wants to be a part of our technical training mission to Belize or elsewhere, please contact and go from there, because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of logistically putting things in order to make it happen, but it will happen. So any assistance that anyone can offer our direction, I would really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Will. I really appreciate it. Now we have a face to another member of our group. So thank you.
Well, thank you for taking time. This is a great idea.